On this video I'll bring another Talmudic story, this time from Masechet Moed Katan. An interesting story about the sensitivity of one student. It says that Rabbi Yonai had a student who was always asking him difficult questions. And of course, there's a lot of times, I guess, the rabbi didn't know exactly how to answer or could find himself in awkward situations, but the student made sure he only asked these questions privately, or when there is only apparently on regular days of learning, when there's the known group of people, and this will not embarrass Rabbi Yonai if he doesn't exactly know how to answer. But when it would come to the Shabbat before holidays, they had special kind of Shabbatot, when they would gather a lot of people and teach them all kinds of laws that relate to the upcoming holiday. So the student was extra careful not to bother Rabbi Yonai. So Rabbi Yonai ultimately realized that the student never asked him any difficult questions when this could lead to public embarrassment. Even though according to the letter of the law he would be allowed to, this is not really, of course, embarrassing somebody in public is a very strict prohibition in Chazal. But really, if you ask somebody a question on Torah and you don't know if the person knows the answer or not, you don't have to worry about embarrassing someone. Really, if he doesn't know the laws too well, it's in a sense his own problem that he's a rabbi who answers all kinds of questions he's supposed to know. And besides that, it's not really that embarrassing to admit something that you don't know. It's quite normal. In fact, this is one of the qualities of a chacham. We know the Chazal discuss the differences between what they call a sage and a golem, a person who is the opposite of the sage. And one of the qualities of chacham is to admit when you know that you don't know, you have to admit that. Chacham can say, I never heard this question. I will try to research it. This is completely fine. So, according to the letter of the law, there was no problem for the student to ask Rabbi Yonai difficult questions, even when a lot of people gathered together. And still, he was extra careful not to do it. So, Rabbi Yonai said about him, kind of paraphrasing the end of the 50th Psalm, the one who thinks about his ways will deserve salvation from Hashem. Meaning a person who is so careful not to say anything that might cause an awkward situation to his Rebbe, he's certainly going to be very careful about other people as well. And this type of individual deserves Hashem's salvation. So of course the lesson for us is always think about how the other person might feel. A lot of times we say things and then we don't realize that this may be causing some discomfort to somebody else. And certainly if you know the person doesn't know anything on this topic, you're not allowed to publicly ask him, well, what do you think about this? This actually is considered onat dvarim. This is a classical case of what they call verbal abuse. Our sages teach us that ona, which generally refers to some kind of a deceitful practice when it comes to sales. For example, even if a person doesn't actually sell an object that has a defect without telling you, that's even worse. But even if a person just exaggerates the price, this is also forbidden. It's not allowed to sell, for instance, an object that you could buy everywhere else for $10 and you're selling it for $20 or for $15, you're not allowed to. Unless the customer is warned and for some reason he still wants to buy it, or unless it's a personal object, a balabait, what's called somebody who owns things. He's not getting these things in order to sell to others. This is his own personal object. Then he's allowed to charge whatever he wants if somebody really wants to buy his personal item. But other than that, generally the businessmen, the store owners, they're not allowed to charge exuberant prices for things that can be bought cheaply everywhere else. Now, of course, exactly how to apply this law goes beyond this lesson, very complex, specific laws on when ona applies. But besides ona, in monetary sense, our sages teach us a different type of ona, and that is onat dvarim. And they say that onat dvarim includes all kinds of statements that lead to embarrassment, to negative feelings, what we would call verbal abuse. And one of the classical cases of verbal abuse is to ask somebody who is not familiar with the topic, well, what do you think about this? So, of course, that would be forbidden. But when you're asking a sage for some answer, you're allowed to ask. You don't know if this person knows or not. I mean, your purpose is, Hashem knows what's in your mind, why you're asking. If your purpose is to embarrass him, of course, it's forbidden. If your purpose is to find out what a specific halacha is, then even if it happens to be a difficult question and the sage might not know the answer, then it's not a problem. Like I said, he should just admit that he doesn't know, or he will research it. Presumably Rabbi Yanai, one of the greatest sages in the land of Israel, knew the answers to the vast majority of the questions. The ones he didn't know, almost nobody knew, so it wasn't that embarrassing. But still, this person was extra careful not to ask publicly when a lot of people are gathered things that Rabbi Yanai might not know. So this is how far he went, even though he was certainly a person who probably valued knowledge and really wanted to know the answers, but he would never ask the questions that Rabbi Yanai might not know the answer to. He wouldn't ask them publicly when there's a lot of people who gathered. And we should all learn from this, how important is the honor of other people, as Pirkei Avot teaches, right? That it should be as important to us as our own honor. Not like the people who generally are interested in their own honor and they don't care about the honor of others, or the opposite. They often use the embarrassment of others in order to promote themselves. That's a very bad trait. If you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.